Hi there, this video is going to cover drawing anthropometric ergonomes to help guide the design and proportions of a product. So here I've just kind of drawn my first draft of a little ergonome, looking at some Pinterest images as direction or reference. So all of these dimensions are in metric, which is really helpful. Often some of the other ones that you find are in imperial or inches, which takes a little bit of time and effort to convert. So try and track down the ones that are in metric sizes. So I've got a little grid here. You can easily use some mathematic grid paper in an exercise book to help guide you. It is a lot easier instead of on a blank piece of paper where you're trying to keep proportions. So I'm just going to establish what my ground line is and start to set out, like my 100 is going to be 2 squares, so a person's foot's probably approximately 200 with their little ankle, and then going up to their knee is at about 450. Okay, so 1, and then I'm actually going to do slightly more of like a lounger type design, so it's going to be more at an angle here, and I may want to actually have that foot more at an angle, so I'm going to lift it up at up by 50 millimeters, and then this distance here is meant to be at about 400 millimeters itself. So you can kind of see here for a dining chair, 360 to 430 is their suggestion. For something that is a bit more comfortable, that's 420 for that distance there, and about 400, 450 between kind of where the back of the, or the end of the legs is to the back. So this is probably a better guide for me at this point. So this is going to be 424. That's going to probably be the hip there, about that much space, and then we're going to go off at a bit of an angle, which is going to be about 400, 450. So that's going to be where the back kind of finishes, and I'm just taking a guide for that gap there, or for this distance here with the body. So 900, this was between 450 and 900, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 900, that distance there. So you can kind of see how I need to take approximately that distance and put it along here for the whole body. So with a head, they're kind of round at the back and they come forward, and then they're kind of flat and go down to a chin kind of shape. So you think a circle at the back, come around to the forehead, they're pretty straight, and then they come into a chin kind of pointed form, which sits on a neck that's kind of in the back half of the head, and the shoulders sit below that. They have a bit of a back and front, at the back, and then at the front here they've got like some kind of chest form, so it needs to come out further, and then it's going to come back down to a hip, and then legs, knee or thigh, calf, ankle. So think of it as quite basic shapes, as kind of maybe a hexagon here, and then we've got kind of like a teardrop type shape, and these are kind of triangles all along here, joined by circles at the joints. So we've got a neck situation here, shoulder, chest, and this is, so I'm kind of figuring out what position I want my body to be in, which is going to direct what my design, or the form of my design. So I'll do it in a different color. What would happen afterwards is I'm going to use these elements to explore a more proportional side view of my own product design, because now I know what the proportions are of my user. You'll note that I've made a mistake here with my design. I had raised the ground up, so that does change the proportion of my design. You can kind of see how close the butt of the user is to the ground within this design now. So you can see that maybe an arm is going to have to be helpful to get people in and out of the product. Really good activity is to firstly draw out a ergonome kind of in a 90-degree seating position, so you can kind of play around with the movement of these joints, and then the next step, so you can kind of get these shapes or forms kind of explored in a basic, and then you can go to that next step of exploring how it might relate to something that is more of a position or as a user for your product, okay? Because you might be designing something that's more of a lounger, or something that's more of a seat study design where you need to consider the height of a potential table. There are heaps of images on Pinterest. I've got a Pinterest board which is called Human Factors, which you could look at as well. If you don't want to search your own images, I have collated some that I've found helpful. Cool, all the best.